Americans have celebrated Christmas in some form for over 200 years. The wintertime observance of the birth of Yeshua Bar Yusuf, also known as Christos, was celebrated west of the Mississippi River throughout the 19th century, especially during the American Civil War. Let's take a look at some wartime holiday experiences in the Wild West. Thousands of Union soldiers from the California Volunteers spent at least one Christmas on active duty. Sergeant George Hand of Company G in the 1st California Infantry Regiment spent the Christmases of 1862 and 1863 in camp in Mesilla, New Mexico. Mesilla was the former capital of Confederate Arizona, which the California, Colorado, and New Mexico volunteers took back from the rebels in 1862. Because of drunken shenanigans involving soldiers the year before, the company commander made the camp dry for the Christmas of 1863. George Hand's diary entry for December 23rd laments that the captain would not sign any orders for whiskey, and that there was no whiskey to be had. Back on the home front, life carried on and citizens did what they could to live and work around the omnipresent war effort. In 1862, Rabbi Abraham Wolf Edelman and his wife Hannah moved from Poland to Los Angeles, where he established the city's first B'nai B'rith, which is today the Wilshire Boulevard Temple. In the early 1860s, there were less than 100 Jewish Angelenos. Hanukkah also hadn't yet become a high Jewish holiday until the early 1900s. Hanukkah certainly was celebrated in America in the 1860s, but mostly by very religious families, and we don't know if the B'nai B'rith celebrated it as a congregation during the war. Since Rabbi Edelman and his wife were Orthodox, there's little doubt that they celebrated Hanukkah in their Los Angeles home in 1862. As far as the Western Confederate states, I haven't yet found any wartime Hanukkahs on the record, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. In San Antonio, the terminal exile capital of Arizona's Confederate territorial government, there was a Jewish congregation. The B'nai B'rith Lodge of San Antonio didn't open until 1872, but Jewish Texans had been congregating in that town since the early 1850s, so somebody has to have celebrated Hanukkah. For the Christian majority, the Christmas experience differed greatly depending on where it was observed and who was involved in observing the holiday. The Los Angeles Star, a pro-secession newspaper, described the limited festivities in Los Angeles during the wartime Christmas of 1863. First, real quick, I want to point out the advertisement for the El Monte Hotel on the front page. El Monte was essentially the pro-Confederate center of Southern California, and the El Monte Hotel was the social center of the town. After a full page of the Los Angeles Star shredding Abraham Lincoln and the federal government to bits, way down on page 2 was the one paragraph on Christmas in Los Angeles. The Star reported, "Christmas has come and gone, and had it not been for the little juveniles who paraded the streets in a rather military manner, making their headquarters at Mr. Hellman's store, we would not have distinguished this day from any other. We noticed very little preparation being made for the occasion, which always brings with it charm for old and young. We saw no Christmas trees this year, like those of the past, around which so many happy hearts and bright faces used to assemble. We remember well the Christmas trees of a few years past, but some of the delicate hands that trimmed and decorated them are not here. In some families, we understand the evening was spent in the most agreeable manner, such as Christmas evenings used to be in olden times. At the Bella Union Hotel, the proprietors, Messrs. King and Hamill, gave a most sumptuous and elegant dinner to which many of their friends were invited, who did ample justice to the many delicacies provided." There are several reasons for the sad and melancholy tone in this article. First, the pro-secession Democrats of Southern California were sad that the Confederacy was losing the war, which was undeniable after the massive defeats at Vicksburg and Gettysburg. Second, the Democrats were defeated politically in the 1863 state elections, partly because over 10,000 Union soldiers in the California Volunteers were sent home on leave specifically to vote. Third, the Copperheads were bummed out that a war they disagreed with was dragging on and claiming more lives at home and east of the Mississippi. Fourth, they were probably feeling the economic pinch, since California's ports and gold fields were paying for a big chunk of the war effort. And on top of that, over 15,000 California men were in the Army and no longer engaged in productive labor to help grow the economy. And fifth, hundreds of California men left the state to fight for the Confederacy, including 32 Los Angeles men in the Los Angeles Mounted Rifles, some of whom were friends of the Star editors, while dozens more LA area Confederate sympathizers were in prison at Fort Alcatraz and Fort Yuma. The gloomy disposition in the Star makes a lot of sense. For Confederates and Confederate sympathizers, even the ones in California, the year 1863 ended on a very depressing note. Things were very different at the industrial school up in San Francisco. I wouldn't exactly call this a trade school. The industrial school was the first juvenile detention center in California, established for neglected and delinquent youth, where the boys worked and went to daily classes for their schooling. These wayward boys were given a special Christmas celebration. The Daily Alta Californian, a pro-union newspaper, reported on their Christmas party. Never were hearts made more happy than when Santa Claus was distributing his presents at the industrial school. The opening exercises were conducted by Mr. W.G. Badger, after which the school sung their Christmas carols, accompanied by Jay Fuller's band. When Santa Claus made his appearance, the boys greeted him with cheers upon cheers. He presented every scholar with an American flag, the band playing the Star-Spangled Banner, after which the entire school were presented with valuable presents, not forgetting the officers of the institution. The school then repaired to the dining rooms, the tables fairly groaning under the immense weight of roast turkeys, roast chickens, and other good things, too numerous to mention. Among the presents was a huge cake weighing 40 pounds, upon which was inscribed, "A Merry Christmas to the boys and girls of the industrial school, from C.O. Geberding." Geberding was a local businessman who moved from Pennsylvania to San Francisco in 1860. So as you can see, in Union towns, Christmas was very happy, and Santa Claus was a Union man. As time passed and Christmases came and went, the war dragged on. In the Pacific Theater, the Union Army continued recruiting every volunteer soldier it could get. For Portland resident William Hilleary, the Christmas Eve of 1864 was the day he joined the 1st Oregon Infantry Regiment. Hilleary wrote in his diary, "My reason for enlisting was that I felt I owed the service to the best government on the earth that rebels were trying to overthrow." Hilleary spent the holidays and the whole year 1865 in Company F, freezing his tail off and chasing Native Americans around eastern Oregon, southeastern Washington, and southern Idaho. I hope you enjoyed this glimpse at Civil War Christmases in the wartime Wild West. Because there were so many people in this war and who lived through different aspects of it, and the number of experiences is so numerous, there will definitely be new stories for me to tell you next Christmas. This month, we're celebrating this channel's 1st anniversary on YouTube. It's been a great year, and this channel has been able to give you enough Civil War content to binge watch for 6 hours straight. It's been a great year, and I'm so glad that you're along for the ride. Merry Christmas to the Christmas folks, Happy Hanukkah to the Hanukkah folks, and happy holidays to everyone else. Be safe on the road these holidays. See you next time on the Civil War Wild West Edition.